Hello friends, welcome back. Myself Pushpendra Singh and we are going to start with our current affairs. So today you have 13th of May 2021 and these lectures are basically based on the current affairs, right? On the day-to-day basis. So we are basically referring the national newspapers like the Hindu and Indian Express. You can also subscribe, you can also refer these newspapers, right, for your current affairs, for the preparation of the civil services examination which is conducted by the UPSC. And you can subscribe our channel on the YouTube, right, where we are uploading these lectures on the day-to-day basis, so that you can supplement your preparation. You can supplement your preparation with the help of these lectures. All right, so let's begin with the lecture. Okay, so first news is related to the production linked incentive scheme for the purpose of advanced chemistry cell battery storage. And you know that this is basically a scheme, right, for the purpose of the development of the smart chemistry cell battery storage system, right? As you know that India is heavily dependent on the import of these cells, specifically the battery storage cells, right, for the purpose of various industrial applications. Now, the government of India is pushing for this in the production linked incentive scheme for the purpose of the development of this advanced chemistry cells, right? So, which is a storage system. Now, Union Cabinet has already approved this proposal, right, of the Department of Heavy Industry for the purpose of the implementation of this production linked incentive scheme for the development of this advanced chemistry cell battery storage system. Okay, now this Union Cabinet approval, which is related to the production of this advanced chemistry cell, is aimed at to achieve the manufacturing capacity of 50 gigawatt hour of this advanced chemistry cell. The capacity, as well as the 5 gigawatt of the Nike advanced capacity, the chemistry cell capacity, with the total outlay of around 18,100 crore rupees. So the government of India is planning to achieve this capacity or manufacturing capacity of around 50 gigawatt hours of this advanced chemistry cell, the battery storage system. Okay, now let us understand what is this advanced chemistry cell battery storage. So first of all, this advanced chemistry cell, you know uh, they are basically the new generation of advanced storage technology, right? This advanced generation, you can say new generation of advanced storage technology, right? That can basically store, some form of, the electric energy, right? So that it can be stored either in the form of electrochemical energy or in the form of a chemical energy, right? And as and when you require to convert back this electrochemical or chemical energy back to the electric energy, right, you can do so whenever you are requiring. So that type of the storage system or storage technology, that is very much essential for the purpose of the development of this, the automobile industries also, right? So the cabinet, which has been chaired by the Prime Minister Narendra Modi, has approved this proposal of the Department of Heavy Industries. Okay, now, every selected this advanced chemistry cell, right? This battery storage manufacturer, right? This, would be commit to have, setup of minimum, the manufacturing capacity of around 5 gigawatt hour of capacity, right? So every such storage manufacturer which is planning to have this advanced chemistry cell should must set up, right, a minimum storage capacity of around 5 gigawatt hour, right? And this will ensure also that at least 60% of the domestic value addition at the project level should be achieved within 5 years, right? And further, under this scheme is also there that the beneficiary firm have to achieve the domestic value addition of at least 25%, right? And incur a mandatory investment of around, the 225 crore per gigawatt hour, that is within 2 years, right? So that is some the essential requirement for the purpose of the setting up of this, the domestic value addition as well as the manufacturing capacity of this advanced chemistry cell. Okay, So this project is basically in the form of hub and spoke structure or hub and spoke model, and this scheme is basically trying to have the manufacturing capacity of 50 gigawatt hour, that I've already told you. So it will be giving a big push to the electric mobility, right, benefiting around three wheelers, four wheelers, and heavy vehicles also, where such type of storage battery system is being used. Okay, and government of India is already incurring around 20,000 crore rupees for the purpose of the import of this battery storage equipment from the foreign countries. And this scheme definitely will help the country in terms of the Atmanirbhar, or the country to become self-reliant. Other benefit, you could also see that it would definitely bring the foreign direct investment. It would definitely increase the manufacturing capacity. Okay, it will definitely boost the production or domestic production. Okay, and it will also cut down you know our forex expense for the purpose of the procurement of this, the battery storage equipments from the foreign countries. Okay, and to make ultimately India as a Atmanirbhar or self-reliance. The other also benefit, like the climate related benefits, like you can think of the cutting down of the greenhouse gases, because this battery storage equipment would definitely use some form of generation technology, where you can store your electric energy in the form of chemical energy, and as and when you require, you can easily convert back to the electric energy. So definitely it will cut down the greenhouse gas emissions, so it will be helpful for the climatic, for the purpose of the management of the climate change also. Okay, next, the world food price. As you know, this world food price 2021 have been conferred to Dr. Shakuntala Harak Singh Threshold, right? So Dr. Shakuntala Harak Singh Threshold have been awarded the global, or world food prize for this year 2021. Okay, Dr. Shakuntala Harak Singh basically is a global nutrition expert, right? And which is basically a Indian descent female, right? And the World Food Prize have been awarded to Dr. Shakuntala for the purpose of her groundbreaking research, specifically for the development of this holistic and nutritional sensitive approach to the aquaculture and the food systems. Right now, regarding World Food Prize, the World Food Prize is basically awarded for a specific and exceptionally significant or some sort of individual achievement that advances the human development, right? With a demonstrable increase in the quality, quantity, and ability or access to the food through some sort of interventions at any point of the time in the food system. Okay, so this World Food Prize was established in 1986, and it is basically located at Iowa in United States, and it is being presented every year by the Bird Food Prize or Foundation, right? Definitely with other sponsored companies also, right? So regarding Dr. Shakuntala Harak Singh, right? Shakuntala Harak Singh basically, working with some sort of a research on some small native fish species, right? These small native fish species basically are found in the Bangladesh, right, or some countries in the Southeast Asia, right, where some sort of a nutritional sensitive approaches have been adopted by Dr. Shakuntala for the purpose of the development of this aquatic food system at all levels. That means right from catching of the fishes to to those to the food processing industries, and to finally to the consumers. So that will basically definitely improve the diets of the millions of the most vulnerable peoples that are living in Asia and Africa throughout the world. Okay, so as I told you that the leading expert, right, Mr. Shakuntala was basically have been conferred this World Food Prize, right, for the purpose of the achievement in the pioneering of the fish waste food systems, that is to improve the nutritional health and livelihood of the millions of this people around the world. So Dr. Shakuntala was first to establish that many such small fish species that are commonly eaten across the Southeast Asia, right, are very important source of the essential micro nutrients, right, as well as the fatty acids, and that will definitely improve the absorption of those nutrients in the plant-based foods also, right. So it's based on the scientific understanding of this benefit related to this the small fish species that are found basically in the Southeast Asia. Okay, so this breakthrough was helped, Miss Sakuntala to prioritize, increase in the fish consumption and the production, and definitely transforming the lives and the incomes of, the world's most vulnerable sections of the people. Okay, now regarding other information, regarding this fishes, these small fishes are basically nutrient rich, and they are basically raised locally or inexpensively, because the vulnerable sections are basically the most, the beneficiaries basically out of this, so now millions of low income families across many countries in the Southeast Asia, including Bangladesh, Cambodia, India, Nepal, Burma, Zambia, Malawi, in the Africa also, they are eating the small fish regularly, and sometimes they also dry those, and sometimes they also eat in fresh also, right? And sometimes they also used to make this, chutneys out of it, right? So it will be very useful for those, for the fatty acids, for the nutrients, for the micronutrients, right? And definitely, the success in this field is basically, in terms of the small scale aquaculture development to the development of, the pond polyculture system, specifically in those small fish species that are basically found in the Southeast Asian waters. So that will definitely help in terms of your nutritional availability among the people, specifically the vulnerable sections of the society, right? This breakthrough has basically led to, the conferring of this World Food Prize to, Dr. Shakuntala. So Dr. Shakuntala, basically, she is native to the Trinidad and the Tobago, right, which is a country, right, and she is currently a citizen of, the Denmark, and she was born in 1949 in the Caribbean island of Trinidad, right, where the small village called, the Reform is there. Now, if you want to have that, why, how she is basically the Indian, the origin. So the Indians used to, transport it to, specifically to the Trinidad and Tobago, for the purpose of various agricultural, development that was basically initiated by the British at that point of the time. So these were basically some of the descendants of the migrants Hindu families that were brought to the Trinidad and Tobago for the purpose of the agricultural labors by the Britishers or by the colonial masters, right? So in that sense, she is basically having some linkages from the native India. Okay, so she is basically Dr. Shakuntala, who was recently been, chosen for the purpose of the World Food Prize, for the purpose of, the developing of the small fish species, right? For the purpose of the nutritional value, specifically for micronutrients and the fatty acids. Okay, next, the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. Okay, now MOU was signed basically between the two prestigious institutions called the Institute of the Chartered Accountants of India, that is ICAI, and Qatar Financial Center Authority. Right, both have signed an MOU, and recently Union Cabinet has approved this MOU, which was signed between these two, the institutes. So that is the Qatar Financial Center Authority as well as the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. Definitely, you must understand the MOU between these two, authorities basically would enhance the cooperation between India and basically Qatar, specifically for the purpose of the accountancy, right? So these, this was led to, the both of these institutions would be working together to strengthening the accounting professions and standards, as well as it will also boost the entrepreneurship base, specifically in the Qatar, right? So this MOU would definitely benefit, both of these countries, the Qatar and the India, specifically the Ministry of Corporate Affairs, right? The Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, as well as the Qatar Financial Center Authority. Okay, as you know that the foreign chapter, or the active chapter of the ICAI is also located in the Doha, right? So it is one such 36 overseas chapters of the ICI which are located in the world. Okay, so there will be active collaboration, right, among those foreign chapters with the ICI, right? So it will be the most vibrant chapters of the ICI, right, where we have basically the MOUs which are signed between the Qatar government as well as the Indian government as per this MOU. Okay, so regarding ICAI or Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, you must understand it is a statutory body, right? And it is established by the Act of Parliament. That is what we call the ICAI as a statutory body. Okay, it has been set up under the Chartered Accountants Act 1949, right? So it is a statute which was passed by the Parliament for the purpose of regulating the profession of the chartered accountancy in the country. Okay, and this institute basically functions under the administrative control of the Ministry of Cooperative Affairs, Government of India. And the ICI is basically, the second largest professional body of chartered accountants in the world. Second largest professional body in the world. Okay, and this ICI having a strong tradition of serving to the Indian economy in the public interest. So other, the objectives of, the ICI is basically to regulate the profession of accountancy in India, right? To conduct education, examinations of the chartered accountancy courses, right? And to have this professional education to the members, conducting the post qualification courses, right? Formulation of accounting standards, right? And some sort of a prescription of accounting auditing procedures that would basically used to be done in our country, and laying down some sort of ethical standards for the purpose of accountancy and monitoring them. Lot of other, important objectives which are there for the purpose of ICAI. Okay, so here you could see basically the Qatar. So Qatar is basically a peninsular Arab country, right? That means it is located in the Arab Peninsula, right, where the terrain basically comprises some sort of a arid desert. Okay, and it has also a long Persian, a Gulf shoreline of the beaches, right? You could see basically here the Persian Gulf. So you have the long shoreline Persian Gulf, beaches, and you have, since it is basically some sort of a arid desert, so it is definitely having some sort of a dunes. Okay, and the Doha is basically capital of Qatar, and you could see basically the neighboring countries like UAE, Iran, Saudi Arabia, right? And it is basically known for its futuristic skyscrapers that are inspired by, some sort of Islamic design in the Qatar. Okay, next you have the aerial passenger roadway system between Dehradun and Mussoorie. So what is happening is that in order to cut down, the distance as well as, the load, or the pressure on the road, right, of, the traveling of the passengers between Dehradun and the Mussoorie, a roadway system, right, that is aerial passenger roadway system, have been approved by the Union Cabinet, right, for the transfer of, some land from the land which is belonging to the Indo-Tibetan Border Police Force to the government of Uttarakhand for the purpose of the construction of this aerial passenger roadway system. This aerial passenger roadway system would connect the Dehradun and the Mussoorie, right? Which are, both of these are the, the famous tourist spots, and that will also boost the tourist related implications in the Uttarakhand also. So the land which belongs to the ITBP would be transferred to the government of Uttarakhand for the purpose of the development of this aerial passenger roadway system, right? So here the, this roadway system or aerial passenger roadway system is basically a mono cable roadway, right, which is basically having the length of around 5.580 meters. That means around, you can understand, 5.58 kilometers or 5580 meters. You can say 5.58 kilometers length. So this length of the mono cable roadway would be constructed, right, and that will connect the Parkul Gaon that is located in the Dehradun side to the library towards the Mussoorie. So these two places would be connected by this mono cable roadway system or aerial passenger roadway system to ferry or to transport the passengers basically through this the aerial roadway, and it will be constructed at the cost of around 285 crore rupees. Okay, so it will be having the capacity of 1000 persons per hour per direction. That means in one direction from Dehradun to Mussoorie, for every hour 1000 persons can be ferried or can be transported. Okay, and it will definitely reduce, traffic flow that is basically on the roads, specifically when you use basically the buses or private vehicles for the purpose of, the ferrying of those passengers, specifically the tourists, right, between Dehradun and the Mussoorie. So that will cut down those traffic congestions also, and that will also beneficial to the local economy. For example, it will generate the direct employment of around 350 people, and also it will generate the indirect employment to the more than 1500 peoples also. right? And you must understand that this ropeway is basically the huge attraction to the tourists, as you must understand that because the Missouri is basically the famous hill station, right? It's a famous tourist spot, and definitely that will further attract those tourism industries specifically in these areas, and definitely it will boost the employment opportunities also in these areas. So here you will have the rope-based system that will ferry, the passengers from Dehradun to Missouri and from Missouri to Dehradun. Okay. Next, bamboo bats. So first of all, you must understand that bamboo bats or bats that we basically play during the cricket can be made up of either bamboo or can be made up of wood. That is willow. Willow is basically a type of the tree, right? A willow is a type of tree which basically located in some sort of a temperate regions. And bamboo, you already know the bamboos, right? So the bats that we play the cricket can be manufactured either with the help of the willow wood or with the help of the bamboo, right? So here the guardians of the cricket law, that is the Marybone Cricket Club, has basically turned down that the idea that the bats are basically can be made up of the bamboo instead of willow, because this the Mary Livon Cricket Club basically, as per the law, it found that it would be illegal under the current law that the bat would be manufactured with the help of this bamboo, because it must be made only of the wood as per the law. And it also bans the lamination of the blade, blade means the grass or the bamboo grass, specifically for the purpose of the bat, for the purpose of the senior cricketers. Okay. So regarding this Marybone Cricket Club, which is basically the club which is founded in 1787, right? Way back in 1787, right? It is basically the guardians of the cricket law, or you could see that it is based in the Lord's Cricket Ground since 1814, and which its own some sort of a the St John's Wood, London, and the club was basically formerly the governing body of cricket and still holds the considerable global influence specifically in the cricket. So you could see that this Marylebone Cricket Club was the world's most active cricket club, and it is also the owner of the Lord's Ground and the guardian of the laws of the game. Okay. Currently, you have the law called the 5.3.2, basically states that the blade of the bat, right, must be consisting of or must be made up of only wood, right? We cannot use the bamboo for the purpose of making of this blade of bat, right? And the bamboo, which is a grass, can be considered as a realistic alternative to the willow, right? It could basically having some sort of a other features like durability, sustainability than compared to the willow. So it could be considered as a realistic alternative to the willow also, for the purpose of the requirement of the change of this law, which basically compulsorily made that the bat or the blade of the bat must be consisting of the wood, that is willow wood. Okay. Now the MCC did welcome this experiment that the blade of the bat could be consisting of or could be made up of this the bamboo instead of the wood that could be the alternative for that purpose. So it welcomed this experiment, and in this way you could basically have the alternatives of the willow in the form of your the bamboos. And once a study was also conducted by the University of Cambridge, which suggested that the cricket bats which are made up of this the bamboo are more sustainable alternative than the traditional ones which are made up of the willow wood. Okay. So according to the researchers with the University of Cambridge, it has been found that the bamboo bats are basically more stiffer, they are more harder, and they are more stronger than the willow. So you could see that they may last long because they are more stiffer, harder, and stronger. But the most drawback is that they are more brittle. They are more brittle because they are also harder in the sense also. Okay. And the researchers with the University of Cambridge also found that the willow tree or the mature willow tree basically took around 15 years to become mature, right, to develop. right, for the purpose of the using of the wood for the purpose of this making of the bat. But the bamboo basically require comparatively one third of the time, around 5 to 6 years, to get matured, and where we could use this the bamboos for the purpose of the bat manufacturing, right? And the most important aspect of this bat manufacturing is that the bamboos are mostly found in the China, South America, Southeast Asia, and India also, where we could easily use this bamboo as the raw material for the purpose of the manufacturing of this bat, and that will definitely boost the economy, the local economy, for the purpose of the development of this bat also. So here you could see the bat which is made up of the bamboo. Okay, a cricketer holding that bat. Okay, next, the International Nurse Day 2021. As you know that every year on May 12th, the International Nurse Day and Midwives Day is basically celebrated. Okay, this International Nurse Day was started in 1965 by the International Council of Nurses. Okay, so International Council of Nurses was instrumental behind the imposition, the celebration of International Nurse Day since 1965 onward. Okay, and this day is basically it's celebrated as a birth anniversary of the famous Florence Nightingale. Okay, now let us having the discussion of this, the two terms here. First, the International Council of Nurses. So this International Council of the Nurses is basically, you could say that it is a federation of more than 150 national nurses association, right, across the world. So it has a federation, right, which is consisting of 130 national nurses association across the world. Okay, and it is founded in 1899, right? It is consisting of 130 in the National Nurses Association, including the one which is located in India. Okay, and it was the first international organization for the healthcare professionals, and it is currently headquartered in Geneva. The Geneva is located in Switzerland, right? Switzerland. Fine. Now, regarding the Florence Nightingale, right? Already you probably have heard this name, right? She was basically the English nurse, or she belongs to the UK, right? And she is basically the English nurse. She was also the social reformer and the statistician. Okay, and during the Crimean War, basically she was getting so much fame, right? Because she served as a manager and the trainer of the nurses, right? That is basically used for the treatment of those basically the soldiers, right, out of this Crimean War. So she has brought the reputation for the nursing and its profession, and become icon for the Victorian culture also, right? And to commemorate and to celebrate this, the contribution which was made, as well as to commemorate the birth anniversary of the Nightingale, we celebrate this basically the International Nurse Day, right? And this year the theme for the purpose of the International Nurse Day is a voice to lead a vision for the future healthcare. Okay, now the more about, if you want to learn the more about the Nightingale. So Nightingale was basically the put the charge of the nursing of the British and the Allied soldiers, right, in the Turkey, specifically in the Turkey during the Crimean War. Okay, and the Nightingale basically spent hours together in the wars, and her night rounds giving the personal cares to the wounded soldiers, right? And the people or the soldiers basically used to say, used to worship her images like the lady with the lamp. Okay, and because of the Nightingale efforts, right, to formalize the nursing education, led to establishment of first scientifically based nursing school, that is the nurse that is Nightingale Nursing School at St Thomas Hospital in London, that was opened way back in 1860. Okay, and she was also instrumental in you know uh, the setting up of the training for the midwives and nurses, specifically in the workhouse infirmaries, right? So she was the first woman to get awarded the Order of Merit in 1907, way back. Okay, you could learn more about the Nightingale from the net. Okay, so one such, the tribute have been made by the followers of the Nightingale, right, specifically to celebrate the Nurse Day in the world. Okay, next you have the Samrajit Jana. The Samrajit Jana was basically an epidemiologist, right? And he was the person who was instrumental behind the right based movement for the sex workers, specifically in the Kolkata. So as you know that you have the Kolkata, where lot of sex workers specifically located in some localities, like you have the localities which is basically known for these sex workers, specifically you know some of the most vulnerable sections of the society. So Mr. Samrit Jana, who was basically an epidemiologist who was behind, right, as an expert, right, which is known for the prevention of HIV, specifically among those sex workers, have recently been passed away due to the COVID-19 complications in Kolkata. Okay, so one such the biggest sex workers which are residing in the Kolkata is at Sonagachi. The Sonagachi is basically the infamous for the sex workers in the Kolkata. So Jana was basically, or Samratji Jana was basically spearheaded the first right based HIV prevention program among those sex workers which are residing in the Sonagachi in Kolkata. And the Samarji Jana was also the member of the National AIDS Control Organization, that is NACO steering committee, which was instrumental behind the controlling of the AIDS among those sections of the society. Okay, regarding Dr. Samarji Jana, who helped the children of the sex workers, right, who was born out of their profession, right, to get the chance to get some sort of opportunities in sports. So right, so he was instrumental in setting up of the Darbar Sports Academy for the purpose of the children of the sex workers to get the chances of play, specifically in the sports called football. And he was also the person who was the founder of the Darbar Mahila Samvya Samiti, right? Regarding the Darbar Sports Academy, you must understand it is a not for profit society, right, which runs one of the first of its kind, some sort of a integrated sports academy in India, for the purpose of facilitating the sports training for the children, specifically for the boys and the girls, specifically from the socio-economic marginalized communities, like you have the sex workers which are residing in Sonagachi area of, which is a red light area in your Kolkata. And it will definitely help them to mainstream, right, as per the best resources available in the society also. And the Dr. Samarji Jana was also instrumental behind the setting up of the Darbar Mahila Samanvaya Samiti. This Darbar Mahila Samanvaya Samiti basically consisting of 65,000 sex workers which are residing in the Sonagachi area of West Bengal, in the Kolkata in West Bengal, and it was established in way back in 1992 in the Sonagachi, right? And which is where some sort of a the Samiti, where the Samiti is behind the right based approach of those women and the sex workers which are residing in this red light area, right, which is one of the most important cause for the human trafficking, which is basically also done through those the rackets which are also active in this Sonagachi area, right, like the young women, young children are also pushed into this the sex trade or the flesh trade in this Sonagachi area also. So the organization was basically very useful for the purpose of the developing of the sports academy, right, to fight the discrimination against those children of which are born out of these sex workers, right, in the Kolkata. All right. So he was basically Mr. Samarji Jana, who recently died of the COVID-19 pandemic. Okay. Next, the Niti Aayog project for the Great Nicobar Island. Now you must understand the Niti Aayog flagship project for the development of the Great Nicobar Island on the Andaman Nicobar Island have been put some restrictions, right, or have been questioned by by basically the steering committee, or by basically the environmental appraisal committee, right, for the purpose of the development of these projects on the Great Nicobar Island. So this environmental appraisal committee have questioned, right, the infrastructural development that is going to come on the Great Nicobar Island, right, and it has caused, or it has flagged the serious concerns about this flagship program or this ambitious program which was pushed by the Niti Aayog for the purpose of the development of this Great Nicobar Island. But you must understand the environmental appraisal committee has, however, have recommended that for the purpose of granting of the terms of the reference for the environmental impact assessment for this project, specifically in the Great Nicobar Island. Okay, now Here you must understand that this expert appraisal committee basically existed in at the union level as well as in the state levels also. Okay, the state level we call the environmental appraisal committee as a state expert appraisal committee. What is the purpose of this environmental appraisal committee? The main purpose is basically to advise the government on the environmental clearance or over certain developmental projects. So the role of this environmental appraisal committee is one of the integral to the process called the granting of this environmental clearance to the developmental projects. Like the developmental project is one such which is going to be happen on the Great Nicobar Island or the Andaman Nicobar Island. Okay, so according to the environmental impact assessment notification which was published by the government of India in 2006, right? For the purpose of evaluation of the proposals involve the four steps. That is already the screening, scoping, public hearing, and appraisal. So here the environmental appraisal committee or various states environmental appraisal committees are basically involved, right, at the various capacities in all those stages. That stages I told you, that first is screening, right, scoping, the public hearing, okay, and basically your appraisal, right? For the purpose these the environmental appraisal committees and state environmental appraisal committee have been involved at various stages, right, except the public hearing, right? Except the public hearing, all other steps we have incorporated the participation of environmental appraisal committees. So this document, which basically recently been uploaded on the Ministry of Environmental and Forest and Climate Change Parivesh portal, shows that the 15-member environmental appraisal committee headed by the famous marine biologist and former director of the Bombay Natural History Society, Mr. Deepak Apte, has made this decision. Okay. Now, regarding the developmental project which the Niti Aayog is pushing on the Great Nicobar Islands, are basically some of the development and infrastructure project like the International Container Transshipment Terminal, right? That will be manufactured, that will be constructed, right? As well as one Greenland International Airport will be constructed over there, right? A power plant and a township complex which will spread over 166 square kilometers, right? You could understand that if you want to develop this container transshipment terminal, the international airport, the power plant, township, obviously you would have to cut lot of the tropical forests which are lying over there, right? All such projects, all such infrastructure project would definitely have some sort of ecological cost, right? And that will be not good for the economic sense, or for the ecological perspective. Okay, regarding the Bombay Natural History Society, you must understand the Bombay Natural History Society was founded in 1883, long back in 1883, right? It is one of the largest non-governmental organization in India, right? It is mainly engaged in the conservation and biodiversity research, okay, and it basically supports many research efforts, right, through the grants, or it also publishes the journal of the Bombay Natural History Society for the purpose of conservation and biodiversity research. Okay, regarding this portal which is known as the Parivesh portal, which belongs to the Ministry of Environment and Forest and Climate Change. So what is this Parivesh portal? The Parivesh portal is basically a web-based, role-based workflow application, right? You could see that it has been developed for online submission, as well as for the monitoring of those proposals which are submitted by the proponents, which are seeking various environmental clearance from Ministry of Environmental, Forest and Climate Change, right? And it will also be used for the purpose of submission and all those proposals for seeking of environmental clearance, the clearance from the wildlife, from the forest, from the coastal regulation zones clearance, right, from the central state government or from the district authority, for whatever may be the reasons, right? And it basically automates some sort of entire tracking of the proposals, right? For example, this portal can be used for the purpose of submission of the new proposal, right? You can also go there on this portal, you can edit, you can update your details of the portals, right? And all such status related to the proposals will be displayed over this portal. So it will be very beneficial as an online tool for the purpose of submitting of those proposals. Okay, so here you could see the Andaman and Nicobar Islands, Okay, here you could see the Great Nicobar Island, where the Great Nicobar Island would be having this type of infrastructure work. So Andaman Nicobar Island, you could see that it is mainly consisting of 572 islands. Okay, out of 572 islands, only 38 are inhabited. Okay, only 32, 38, sorry, remaining are inhabited. Remaining are, right, remaining are habited, but 38 are basically inhabited, right? And it is also located at the juncture of the Bay of Bengal and Andaman Sea, right? It is basically the union territory of, belongs to India. Okay. Next, you have the pangolins. Okay, the pangolin is basically, a species which are protected under the Schedule 1 of the Wildlife Protection Act, which is, which is the law which have been passed by the Parliament for the purpose of the conservation of certain species of the animals. Right. So, as you know that pangolins, the scales have been illegally been, they exported, illegally traded for the purpose of the scales of the pangolin, and it has been very high demand, specifically in the East Asian medicines, right? Specifically in the China, Cambodia, Thailand, Vietnam, right? Very, very high demand. And it has been estimated that, right, that, the illegal trade for the purpose of this pangolin scales is worth of $2.5 billion per year. So you could think of, the bounty which is attached with this pangolin scales. And recently, Indian researchers have basically sequenced the 624 pangolin scales for the purpose of just categorizing and differentiating between Indian pangolins and the Chinese pangolins, right? Just for the purpose of the scientific study, right, among them, right? So to enforce, to appropriate national and international laws, right, to track down all such illegal trade among the pangolins, right? The researchers of the Zoological Survey of India, right, have developed a tool, right, so that you could easily, identify which one is the Indian pangolin and which one is basically the Chinese pangolin, right? So you could basically identify those scales just by measuring or just by, observing those scales, right? So this tool, which was developed, right, by the Zoological Survey of India, by the researchers, would basically based on some sort of a morphological features, was based on some sort of a appearance, right? And it will also investigate the genetic variations, right, which are found between the Indian pangolins and the Chinese pangolins, right, by sequencing this 624 scales of those pangolins. And the scientists also started comparing the sequences, right, with all such 8 pangolin species which are found across the world. Okay, so it is based on the size, shape, weight, and the ridge counts, right? You could identify, right, those scales, and the scientists were able to categorize those pangolins, which were belongs to the Indian pangolins, or which one is basically the Chinese pangolins. The Chinese pangolin is basically distributed mainly in the Vietnam, Thailand, Cambodia, northeastern part of our country also. So it is of very high demand for the purpose of the medicines, right? And it has been distributed, you could see basically in some of the Asian countries. And the pangolin scales was basically, you can see that the pangolin scales are made up of the keratin. Okay, this keratin is the same material that makes up of, your fingernails or your hairs or your horn, right? So what happens is this pangolin scales, like rhino horn, right, have some, the medicinal value, right? So they would use basically in the traditional Chinese medicines, right, and help in ailment of certain site of diseases like lactation difficulties or even arthritis also. So this, for the purpose of this keratin, right, this Chinese pangolins and Indian pangolins are basically illegally traded. Okay, and regarding the Indian pangolins, right, the Chinese pangolins are basically distributed across these countries: Vietnam, Thailand, Cambodia, northeastern part of our country. The Indian pangolins are comparatively thick-tailed, right, compared to the Chinese pangolin. If you just differentiate, right, you could see here the Indian pangolin and the Chinese pangolin. So it has the thick tail then compared to the Chinese pangolin. Okay, and the scaly antler is basically native to the Indian subcontinent, right? And it has basically, the overlapping scales on the body, just like any other pangolins, and which act like a armor, right? Here you could see the pangolin, just type on the Google, you could find out that it could basically, curl itself, right, into a ball, right, whenever it finds certain, the threat to its, life. So as a self defense, it could curl itself into a ball against any sort of a predator such as tiger or any sort of a lion or any predator which basically comes over there. Okay, and so for the purpose of this developing protocols, right, as you must understand, these species are protected under Wildlife Protection Act, right, 1972, and both species are basically currently the endangered as per the status for those species, and it will be very very important to protect those species, right, from such illegal trade. Next, the animal corridors in the Kaziranga National Park. Now, you must understand, animal corridors are those areas where the animals used to move. The animals used to move. So, these animal corridors are basically the dedicated areas or dedicated lanes or dedicated, the ways over which the animals used to migrate, right, from one region to the another region, right. So, it is basically their migration corridors where animals used to move on the certain path. So, they are called animal corridors. So what is happening is that certain corridors are basically fragmented because of the infrastructure project, because of the developmental projects. So the authorities specifically in the Golaghat and the Naugan districts of the Assam specifically started proving that, some fragmentation in the animal corridors, right, because of the forest land, because of the digging and the construction activities. So all such developmental activities have fragmented those animal corridors, right, and such fragmentation are happening within the eco-sensitive zone of Kaziranga National Park. Okay, so they have started, probing such fragmentation. Okay, and two such districts have been chosen, that one is Golaghat and Naugan, right, where you will have, large areas of around 1300 square kilometers, where the tiger reserve was basically, has nine identified animal corridors, right, which are basically chosen for the purpose of such probe. And seven of these basically, the SWAT or the animal corridors that have been chosen, the seven of these are basically the Amguri, Baguri, Chirang, the Diosur, Harmati, Hatidadi, right, and your Kachanguri, which are located in the Nauwan district, and the two remaining are basically located in the Golaghat district. They are basically the Haldibari and Panbari. All such nine stretches or nine corridors will be probed for the purpose of this fragmentation. Okay, and you must understand these corridors are basically very crucial for the rhinos which are found in the Kaziranga National Park, elephants, tigers, deers, and other animals which are found in Kaziranga National Park, right. Specifically, they used to migrate when you have the, the flooding time, when the Brahmaputra river basically flooding the, the low lying areas, specifically in this region, when the monsoon are very heavy, right. So these animals used to migrate, right, safely, right, of the hills of the Karbi Anglong district beyond the highways, right, which is basically the southern boundary of Tiger Reserve. And if such corridors are basically, fragmented, you could understand that such migration would be very difficult for those animals, and it will be impacting negatively on, the status of those animals also. Okay, so it is simply a violation of, the authorities, that they are not concerning about those preservation and the conservation of those corridors, specifically in the Nawan district, where the seven such corridors have been located. Okay, and the patch of the forest have been cleared, and started developing several, developmental activities like tea plantation, right. The developmental activities are also coming into that area also. Okay. Regarding Kaziranga National Park, as you know that the Kaziranga National Park is basically a protected area in the northeast Indian state of Assam, right? It is located in the Assam, and it is basically spread over the floodplains of the Brahmaputra River, right? It is basically consisting of the forest, wetlands, grasslands, right? And it has the home of various animals, like as I've already told you, that rhinos, elephants, tigers, deers, and other animals, right, which are also found over there. And the most important is the one-horned rhinoceros, which are found in the Kaziranga National Park, right. And sometimes the Ganga's river dolphin also swim into the park's water also sometime. Okay, and it is visited by many, migratory birds also, like you have, gray pelicans, right, which is basically, obviously you could spot nearby the villages also in the waters of Kaziranga National Park. Okay, so it is one of the most important vibrant ecosystem, like in terms of the flora and the fauna composition, right? So we should obviously protect those species from being extinct at this region. Okay, so that's all for today. Thank you very much. Please take care of yourself from corona, and definitely we'll meet again tomorrow for our next current affairs. Thank you very much.